the gap, standing for Jesus. Standing in the gap for family and friends. Standing in the gap, one love for all, so we all can make it in.
What we do in these broadcasts is we want to keep you up on current events, things that are going on in the world, because it affects us so much. And since we're in the world, and God put us in the world, then we need to understand that the world, the things that are happening around us, are not separate from God's will and God's power. And so we will keep you updated on what's happening in the world and standing in the gap, how those things come together. And so a portion of the show we dedicate to what we call Gap News. And Gap News is under the supervision, the authority, and the leadership of my wife, Marvel. She's got something here for you as we are into Black History Month. And so, Marvel, you got it.
I'm having a lot of fun with this Gap News in the month of February with Black History Month. So we started out with our young legislators. Again, what we're doing with this Black History Month, we're not talking about the Black history from way back a long time ago. We're talking about people who are making Black history today. So we had our young legislators. Last year we had our last week we had our military leaders, and man, oh man, I had picked this week to have the legal eagles, and then we had some fireworks in the courtroom this week. It seemed like it was a year. So we're going to be doing our legal eagles, people who are top-notch lawyers in our country making history.
Good afternoon. Earlier this afternoon, Donald Trump was arraigned on a New York Supreme Court indictment returned by a Manhattan grand jury on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. Under New York state law, it is a felony to falsify business records with intent to defraud and an intent to conceal another crime. That is exactly what this case is about. 34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct. The defendant repeatedly made false statements on New York business records. He also caused others to make false statements. The defendant claimed that he was paying Michael Cohen for legal services performed in 2017. This simply was not true. And it was a false statement that the defendant made month after month in 2017. April, May, June, and so on through the rest of the year. For 9 straight months, the defendant held documents in his hand containing this key lie, that he was paying Michael Cohen for legal services performed in 2017. And he personally signed checks for payments to Michael Cohen for each of these 9 months. In total, the grand jury found there were 34 documents with this critical false statement. Why did Donald Trump repeatedly make these false statements? The evidence will show that he did so to cover up crimes relating to the 2016 election. Donald Trump executives at the publishing company American Media Incorporated, Mr. Cohen, and others agreed in 2015 to a catch and kill scheme. That is, a scheme to buy and suppress negative information to help Mr. Trump's chance of winning the election. Less than 2 weeks before the presidential election, Michael Cohen wired $130,000 to Stormy Daniels' lawyer. That payment was to hide damaging information from the voting public. The participant scheme was illegal. The scheme violated New York election law, which makes it a crime to conspire to promote a candidacy by unlawful means. The $130,000 wire payment exceeded the federal campaign contribution cap, and the false statements in AMI books violated New York law. That is why Mr. Trump made false statements about his payments to Mr. Cohen. He cannot simply say that the payments were a reimbursement for Mr. Cohen's payments to Stormy Daniels. To do so, to make that true statement, would have been to admit a crime. So instead, Mr. Trump said that he was paying Mr. Cohen for fictitious legal services in 2017 to cover up actual crime committed the prior year. The conduct I just described and that which was charged by the grand jury is felony criminal conduct in New York State.
Today starts a landmark trial that will be a referendum on how far America has come in its quest for equality and justice for all. It will be prima facie evidence, this trial of Derek Chauvin regarding the killing of George Floyd on May 25th, 2020, right here in Minneapolis. It will be prima facie evidence whether America is going to live up to the Declaration of Independence. Now, I know everybody can quote the Declaration of Independence, but this trial is going to provide evidence of whether we really believe it when we say we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equally, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that amongst them are life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Well, America, that means black people too. America, that means George Floyd too. And for all of those people, Reverend Al, who continue to say that this is such a difficult trial, that this is such a hard trial, well, we rebuke that. Because we know if George Floyd was a white American citizen and he suffered this painful, torturous death with a police officer knee on his neck, nobody will be saying this is a hard case. And when people ask you that, activists, and the family thanks the activists, when people ask you, well, isn't this a tough case? Because they're going to try to say George Floyd had a trace amount of drugs in his system. You let them know that Ben Crump said that George Floyd was living, breathing, walking, and talking just fine until the police put him face down and put him in handcuffs and put a knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. So this murder case is not hard when you watch that torture video of George Floyd. Y'all understand? This murder case is not hard when you watch that torture video of George Floyd, and we have to call it what it is. It was torture. Even under the Geneva Convention definition, this was torture. And Derek Chauvin should be held criminally liable for the death of George Floyd.
Ben Crump is an attorney who specializes in civil rights cases. He first gained national prominence representing the family of Trayvon Martin. Martin was shot and killed by George Zimmerman during an altercation in a Florida neighborhood back in 2012. Since then, Crump has been involved in a string of high-profile civil rights cases. Among them, Ahmaud Arbery, a 25-year-old black man killed while jogging in Georgia, and Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old black woman who was fatally shot by police during a botched raid at her apartment in Louisville, Kentucky. Most recently, Crump has led the legal team representing the family of George Floyd.
Education is of no value if we keep it amongst the educated. You got to take this education back to your hood, back to your homeboys, back to your homegirls, back to your cousins. You got to take it and you got to share it with them.
Thank you for joining us. I'm here with the prosecutors and investigators who have worked diligently on the investigation of criminal attempts to interfere in the administration of Georgia's 2020 presidential election. Today, based on information developed by that investigation, a Fulton County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment, charging 19 individuals with violations of Georgia law arising from a criminal conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in this state. The indictment includes 41 felony counts and is 97 pages long. Please remember that everyone charged in this bill of indictment is presumed innocent. Specifically, the indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, John Charles Eastman, Mark Randall Meadows, John Cheeseborough, Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Lynn Ellis, Ray Stallings Smith III, Robert David Cheeley, Michael A. Roman, David James Schaefer, Sean Micah Tresher Steele, Stephen Cliffgard Lee, Harrison William Prescott Floyd, Travion C. Cootie, Sydney Catherine Powell, Kathleen Austin Latham, Scott Graham Hall, and Misty Hampton, also known as Emily Misty Hayes. Every individual charged in the indictment is charged with one count of violating Georgia's Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act through participation in a criminal enterprise in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to accomplish the illegal goal of allowing Donald J. Trump to seize the presidential term of office beginning on January 20th, 21. Subsequent to the indictment, as is the normal process in Georgia law, the grand jury issued arrest warrants for those who are charged. I am giving the defendants the opportunity to voluntarily surrender no later than noon on Friday, the 25th day of August, 2023.
And that's what I was going to ask you, your security detail, did they take you to and from your house? They take, well, so I haven't been able to enjoy my home.
Condo, I'm sorry.
Since March of
where you lay your head. Do they take you to and from where you lay your head?
99% of the time.
Would they take Mr. Wade to and from wherever you laid your head?
That has never in the history of ever happened, ever, okay?
Your security team has never taken him?
From my house? That's a lie.
That's another. If they've ever taken him anywhere.
And I'm telling you that that's never happened.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
Well, no, look. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So my question was, do you have any problem?
I object to getting any personal records of mine.
We're not dealing with
Romantic relationship. When did your romantic relationship with Mr. Wade end? Did it end?
Me and Mr. Wade, we are good friends. My respect for him has grown over these 7 weeks of attacks. We are very good friends. I think, but for these attacks, it would have been a friendship that, as life goes, he would have stopped having. I think that you have cemented that we'll be friends till the day we die. Condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So, not your house. I know you classified one as house and one as condo, so I'm trying to use those terms.
So, but there's been more. See, what you don't understand is because of this case, I got to move. And so I need to,
if you could ask a more precise question.
Yes, please, give me the time period.
Mr. Wade visits you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
Ms. Willis? Mr. Sena, thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes. All right. Not seeing anything else. If we could bring back in Ms. Willis.
Actually, Your Honor, the state has no further questions for Ms. Willis. So.
All right.
President Trump was almost on the verge of bankruptcy, and then all of a sudden he was flush with money. And we all know that domestic banks were not offering him, extending any credit to him. And so the question is, where did he get all of that money from?
Letitia James was elected New York Attorney General on November 6th. She campaigned on the promise of holding President Trump accountable, saying she will aggressively investigate Trump's businesses and finances in his hometown. James became a public defender after attending law school at Howard University. She served on the New York City Council from 2004 to 2013.
As a city council member, I challenged special interest groups, and challenged administrations, and challenged mayors who wanted to turn back the clock of time.
In 2014, she became New York's public advocate, the city's second highest elected position.
Of course, if working people aren't getting their fair share, if our government isn't securing the reforms New Yorkers were promised, you better believe Dasani and I will stand up.
Mr. Trump's comments were offensive, they were baseless, they were void of any facts and or any evidence. What they were comments that unfortunately fomented violence, and comments that I would describe as race baiting, and comments, unfortunately, that appeals to the bottom of our humanity. This case was brought simply because it was a case where individuals have engaged in a pattern and practice of fraud. And I will not sit idly by and allow anyone to subvert the law. And lastly, I will not be bullied. And so Mr. Trump is no longer here. The Donald Trump show is over. This was nothing more than a political stunt, a fundraising stop. And now we can continue to go forward with our trial, and we are confident that justice will be served. Thank you.
Responsibility to protect the integrity of the marketplace. And for years, Donald Trump engaged in deceptive business practices and tremendous fraud. Donald Trump falsely, knowingly, inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself, his family, and to cheat the system. Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal. This long-running fraud was intentional, egregious, illegal, and he did all of this with the help of the other defendants, his 2 adult sons, and senior executives at the Trump Organization. And so, after 11 weeks of trial, We showed the staggering extent of his fraud and exactly how Donald Trump and the other defendants deceived banks, insurance companies, and other financial institutions for their own personal gain. We proved just how much Donald Trump, his family, and his company unjustly benefited from his fraud. Today, the court, once again, ruled in our favor and in favor of every hard-working American who plays by the rules. Donald Trump and the other defendants were ordered to pay $463.9 million. That represents $363.9 million in disgorgement, plus $100 million in interest, which will continue to increase every single day until it is paid.
Well. So y'all saw first, I'm having a thing here. So y'all saw first my own legal eagle, Attorney Arthur Harmon Jr. You're my legal eagle, honey. But then, you know, these lawyers are awesome. We got Alvin Bragg. We got Attorney Ben Crump. We got DA Fani Willis and Attorney General Letitia James. These are powerful Black attorneys. And you know, it's funny. Well, it's not funny, ha ha, but it is ironic that of these three top-notch, nationally and internationally known attorneys, three of them are having cases with who? Donald John Trump. And then, of course, Attorney Crump, he's a crusader trying to get justice for all of the Black people who have been killed without cause and without that it should not have happened against Black people. But honey, what do you think? I mean, where can we even start?
Well, I'll start. One thing is that, and you know, I appreciate you putting me up there. I mean, I've been down that road myself in representing people in civil rights cases in Cincinnati. Not to the extent of what, you know, Crump has done and that, but you know, as a Black attorney, it's very difficult not to be involved in that, and I have been, and I applaud Mr. Crump for what he's been able to do, because when you look at that whole panoply of Black attorneys, what I see is Blacks, they say, built America. The slaves, you know, on the back of slaves, even the White House and all that up in Washington, D.C. But who's the one that's stepping forward now to preserve that democracy? When you, it's Black attorneys, it's female attorneys, and so the one that's bringing the charges, you know, Jack Smith. Okay, I mean, what's his name, Smith?
On the January 6th case.
Yeah, that's fine. But these other cases, the ones in New York, you know, the Attorney General and the Manhattan DA, and then down in Georgia, and all that. I mean, Black people are standing up for this democracy. They built it. Now they're standing up for it. And that silence of those white people who just allow Donald Trump to do whatever he wants to do is appalling. But thank God that we have these Black attorney crusaders, as you call them, that are standing up for justice, as in Micah 6:8. Do justice.
And it was so ironic. This week, the Manhattan DA case got announced. They're starting their trial. This week, Fani Willis, some fool thought they were going to go after her with some silly mess, what she called cute. And whoa, did they step in it. I know they're still trying to figure out which way is up and how can I get out of this mess with her. And then Tish James's case got the award, and it was a stunning award. Just this week.
You know,
That's
one
what I
thing,
call the Gap News, y'all.
one thing that shows on all the ones that you have highlighted is, for a long time, people thought black attorneys didn't have the smarts or the sense to do certain things and bring certain cases, and even if they were, it'd be easy to overcome them and all that. But I think Tiz James and Fani Willis, they know what they're doing.
Oh yes,
They know what they're doing. And even Bragg, the way he pulled those cases into a felony charge that would normally be misdemeanors. And then Crump, I don't know how much money Crump has made for people.
Oh, he's made a lot of money from people.
If people think that black attorneys don't know their stuff or can't do what they want to do, this is an indictment to that thought.
Oh, it is. It certainly is. It certainly is. And just pointing out, one of the things that the Georgia swirl around was talking about that attorney, the special prosecutor that she hired, saying he wasn't qualified. Why?
Yeah, because he was black.
Because he was black. So I was so excited that, it's kind of like all things kind of came together all in this week. And this was the week I was planning to do the Legal Eagles. So anything else you got to say about that?
Stay tuned. It's going to keep happening.
Okay. And Sister Michelle said, thank you for this awesome Gap News. It was my pleasure putting it together. It certainly was.
All right, well then let's get on to something else that is real important.